Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this white, blue and red or Jeskai colored artifact deck, but as you may have noticed, we're not running any copies of Simulacrum Synthesizer, which is usually the big payoff for running an artifact deck in standard, especially one with United Battlefront. Instead, our primary win condition in this deck is 4 copies of Weapons Manufacturing, a 2-mana enchantment, the only non-artifact spell in the deck, saying whenever a non-token artifact we control enters, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions, which says when it leaves the battlefield it deals 2 damage to any target. Note it says when it leaves the battlefield, not when it's sacrificed or when it goes to the graveyard, so that means that we can also trigger our Munitions when it gets exiled by our own Pinnacle Starcage, which when it enters exiles all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this artifact leaves the battlefield. So the goal in this deck is going to be to get as many manufacturings in play as possible, build up our munitions count, and then ideally if we can get to 10 munitions, we can at some point cast the Starcage or tutor it up with our repurposing bay, and then have Starcage exile 10 munitions, which is 20 damage to win the game on the spot. And of course Starcage also will generate an extra munitions for every manufacturing, can make sure to get a token before we exile it with the Starcage, so that can be 2 additional damage as well. And then repurposing bay, as I mentioned, can be a way of finding the Starcage or some of our other 3-drops, since we're only sacrificing 2-mana artifacts to get a 3-mana artifact in this build. Although in a pinch you could also sacrifice some munitions, not get anything in return, but that's still a way to maybe deal 2 damage. But a more elegant way of doing that is with a Legion Extruder, a 2-mana artifact dealing 2 damage to any target when it enters, so this can also go upstairs or we can use it as a removal. And then for 2 mana we can tap and sacrifice another artifact to create a 3/3 Golem token, so we can sacrifice some munitions, get 2 damage out of it, and then still get a 3/3 token, which can function as a blocker or a backup win condition in case we can't assemble enough munitions in time. And then rounding out the deck, we've got the full set of Cryogen Relic, which is also perfect here. We'll draw a card when it enters and when it leaves the battlefield. So once again, if we exile it with our own Starcage, it will draw us a card, or we can sacrifice it to Repurposing Bay to get a 3-drop, and then it will draw a card as well. And then the spring-loaded Saw Blades we can flash in to deal 5 damage to a tapped creature an opponent controls, and then we also don't mind sacrificing it later. And exiling all these 2-mana artifacts to a Starcage can also be beneficial if at some point we sacrifice the Starcage to Repurposing Bay. Even though I don't have any 4-drops to search up, we'll get to return all these 2-mana artifacts to the battlefield, re-triggering their abilities, which can maybe draw more cards or deal additional damage. And then at 3 mana, I also have the full set of Perilous Snare as a flexible answer to deal with opposing non-land permanents. And then Braided Net is also pretty important, can tap down opposing creatures before they get a chance to hit us, can also eventually transform it into the Braided Kipu, which also will re-trigger our manufacturing, since that's another artifact entering the battlefield, and then we can pay 4 mana, get rid of the Kipu, and draw cards equal to the number of artifacts we control, which can also get out of hand with lots of munitions, so that can also draw us into more win conditions and more answers where needed. And then of course, topping off our curve, we've got United Battlefront, which gets to look at the top 7 cards of our library to find up to 2 non-creature, non-land cards with mana value 3 or less and put them straight onto the battlefield. So this can find every single other card in the deck, which is also why we're keeping the curve at 3 and 2 mana, so we can hit all our cards with the United Battlefront and get the most value possible. And this can also be a way of finding our weapons manufacturing, and if the manufacturing is found alongside another artifact, we also get to immediately make another munitions, which can also make the difference. And then the mana base is far from perfect at the moment, as we're still missing a few shock lands, although they are announced to be in Lorwyn Eclipsed, so we will get those soon enough, Steam Vents and Hallowed Fountain. For now we only have Sacred Foundry in Standard. I'm playing it alongside Meticulous Archive, which enters tapped but lets us surveil 1, and all these shock lands and the surveil lands also play well with the Verge lands, which will then be able to produce both of their colors. To River Power Verge, full set of Sunbillow, and then Multiversal Passage also counts as a basic land type to enable the Verges, can have it enter untapped at the cost of 2 life, and then we can choose whatever color we want, and then just 1 island and plains in case we need to search them up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Double manufacturing is where we want to start. We've got some removal. And for now we can surveil. And I'll keep the battlefront for sure. So facing blue-black. This manufacturing may get countered, but I'm still gonna try. That resolves. Maybe a flash creature end of turn. For opponents keeping up creature removal, we're happy, since we're not gonna present any creatures. For now, play another manufacturing before we start deploying our artifacts. Can play this tapped on, doesn't matter too much. So we're pretty happy with this passive start from our opponents, but yeah, maybe they're a more dedicated control deck, aiming for the late game, maybe they're trying to mill us out. It's hard to tell. So Battlefront would be the best card to resolve here, but I'm gonna assume that our opponent has a counterspell. So instead, I can maybe kick things off with a repurposing bay, which I don't really care if it gets countered. Would be better once we pick up some 2-drops. Opponent's gonna consult without kickers, so they are digging for a counterspell or they have one in hand already. And they're gonna consult again. Alright, so does not seem like they found what they were looking for necessarily. If they play the Monument to mill us, we can also exile that with a Star Cage, since it's a 2-mana artifact. And then this turn I could play Saw Blades and use Repurposing Bay to upgrade it into a 3-drop. Could still lead with Braided Net. And then Saw Blades in the opponent's turn. Opponent is going to counter that one. I'll still play the Saw Blades now then, just to get the munitions and my 2-mana artifact in play, which we can next turn upgrade. But yeah, there's the Ruptures. Opponent mills half of my deck. So is there any way I can present a lethal here? I'm gonna need 10 munitions total. So if Battlefront finds 2 artifacts, I go up to 8. And then I can upgrade the Saw Blades into Star Cage, and then we win, dealing 20 damage exactly. I don't think there's another guaranteed way to do it. First I should double check that I have another Star Cage in the deck. I do. Alright, let's try it. And yeah, we got there. Can Star Cage now, but I would rather just get the Star Cage out of the deck. Manufacturing, I guess, would do it too. Since we get a trigger from the manufacturing with the extruder that just entered as well. And then now Repurposing Bay. Sack either one of our 2-mana artifacts. And get one of those Star Cages. And then first resolve the manufacturing, then the Star Cage. And those will all go face. Alright, so yeah, good thing we were able to close out the game, otherwise next turn our opponent could have played the Monument, exhausted it, and then we would have been drawing from an empty library. So then unless I can win in my upkeep, we would have lost that game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Got our manufacturing, some interaction, and can't say no to Battlefront, even though we still need land 4. Get our win condition down, facing Uthros, so this could be a Kona combo deck, never mind, it is the Artifact Mirror. Okay, so what's my best play this turn? Might just be braided nets, or we can get the repurposing bay in place, so at some point I can sack extruder to get star cage. Yeah, that maybe makes more sense. They might also see repurposing bay as a threat and get rid of it with their own perilous snare. Authority is fine. Opponent passes. So, yeah, there's nothing I want to sack to repurposing bay, so I'll just play the braided nets. Opponent has the battlefronts. Let's see what they find. Synthesizer and repurposing bay, which can find more synthesizers. So yeah, that's a problem. I do have perilous snares for days. So I can get rid of the first synthesizer. Braided net, tap down the token. Hope they don't have more battlefronts, because if they keep putting 2 permanents in play at once, we're gonna eventually fall too far behind. Right, so they are just getting another synthesizer. Presumably, they could also get rid of our perilous snare. Yep. And get to scry 2. Now the question, if I draw land 4, do I battlefront or do I still just perilous snare the synthesizer? I might still be better off just removing synthesizer for now, to make sure we don't let them untap with it. Yeah, I think that's fine, and then next turn we can battlefront perhaps. We're building up our munitions, so if star cage happens at any point, we'll get the damage from it. And I'll make an extra red in case we need to double extruder in one turn. Saw blades can be sacked to repurposing bay to get another synthesizer. Alright, now they're gonna perilous snare. So they did not have land 5 to activate repurposing bay first. Now we do have to watch out for the fire crystal coming down out of nowhere, giving stuff haste. So this turn, I think I actually run it back. Perilous snare, the perilous snare, get rid of synthesizer, extruder can go face. And then next turn, hope to set up a star cage. Because yeah, there's nothing I want to sack to the repurposing base since we don't have any 2-drops on the battlefield. So we've got 7 munitions, so close to a lethal amount. Next turn I could also transform the braided net, although I actually don't have double blue to then activate the Kipu, so that was maybe a mistake with playing the passage on red instead of blue, but we happen to draw another red source. But yeah, we still have a battlefront, which could just win the game out of nowhere. Opponent gets synthesizer instead of messing around with another perilous snare. And I'm probably close to transforming braided net, so may as well get most out of it. Alright, now Battlefront looks fine. And we hit Star Cage as well as a Legion Extruder, which, if we do the math here, 2 more artifacts, so yeah, that should be Exaxes. Making sure to stack these triggers correctly. And yeah, opponent scoops it up, 2 damage puts them to 18, get 2 more munitions, and then 9 munitions getting exiled is 18 more damage. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's a little slow. Need to hit a few more land drops, but once we get to 4 mana, Battlefront can stabilize us. We have a Star Cage to catch back up. Missing the manufacturing pretty much. So we can dig for it with our Surveil land. Sawblades could be fine, but need lands more. Facing blue-white. Control can be a tough matchup, because they can just keep their answers for the manufacturing, and then it's going to be hard to just get there with extruder tokens. But yeah, I guess we'll resolve the repurposing bay. Don't need to show them red mana. Alright, so could try to go for Battlefront, although there's a good chance that they have a No More Lies to counter. So instead, I don't hate Extruder. They would think we can sack it to Bay to get a Synthesizer, maybe. So they might actually fight over this, which would be a win in my book. Yep, perfect. Would have been nice to have him play, admittedly, but I think given the circumstances, I would rather flush out the counterspell. Now we're in a similar position, except they could have some 3 mana counters as well. So Battlefront's unlikely to resolve. I think I still try and cast it anyway. Question is if I Surveil first or after. I think we save it for after. Alright, that resolves. We get to keep a manufacturing and Relic versus Extruder. Extruder is another win condition. Can also get swept up by an opposing Star Cage, so I think Relic makes more sense, also better with a repurposing bay, drawing an extra card. But Get Lost is the main problem here, since that can hit the manufacturing. Okay, River Regent discards Rest in Peace. I don't think that's super relevant in this matchup, because it's when it leaves, so yeah, it doesn't affect our manufacturing in any way. Braided Net isn't the worst, can eventually transform it to draw some cards. So we'll see how aggressive they are in removing the manufacturing. For now, opponent missed a land drop, has to discard to hand size. Gets rid of another Rest in Peace. So, good chance that they drew into a counterspell in the meantime. So, repurposing bay can sack Relic to get a 3-drop. And then I can still pay for No More Lies if I Braided Net first. And then I'll get probably another repurposing bay. Since there's nothing I need to remove, could go for another Braided Net too, I guess. Yeah, I probably don't need 2 bays. So our opponent must be confused that we're not getting Synthesizer. Gotta hope they don't have Ultima as a board wipe. Because I would also stop the munitions from dealing 2 damage, since it ends the turn. So what we really want is finding a few more manufacturings. Seam Rip we can get rid of with our 3 mana Snare. Take my turn. And there's a Snare. So I can start there. Braided Net is 2 mana to craft, 4 to activate, so I can also set that up. Which I don't hate. Yeah, maybe I'll start there. Because we have a bunch of artifacts in play. And then we'll Surveil. And keep the manufacturing. Gonna have to discard to hand size a bit. As our opponent just makes a fish. Alright, discard 3 cards. Just double passage. And Don't think I'll need saw blades. Could have tapped it with the braided net, I suppose, since we're probably not going to use it elsewhere. Alright, so I'm starting with manufacturing. They may fight over this. And then I can maybe snare the seam rip to get the other one back. Opponent's gonna hard counter. So they've identified our win condition correctly. Now, I think I wait on Battlefront, can snare, still pay for no more lies. Get the manufacturing back. And then could once again craft with Artifact, which triggers the manufacturing. Or I can just play the Relic to draw. Yeah, it's about the same. So yeah, the card I'm terrified of here is Ultima. They might actually no-more-lize the Relic now, since they may not have an opportunity to use it elsewhere, but opponent lets it go. So they don't seem to have a get lost for the manufacturing, which is good. Opponent can sack the fish to draw. Alright. So if we can find a second manufacturing, we can pretty quickly close out the game. And redraw our braided net. So this turn I can once again craft to draw a million cards. And that's the best way of finding the manufacturing. Or we can try Battlefront, but that's going to be better once we have manufacturing in play already. Could also actually craft with the relic that's in play to draw an extra card, but we'll get to draw a card with it eventually. And this way we have an extra artifact on the battlefield. This I can only activate as a sorcery, I believe. I guess never mind. So I could use this in the opponent's turn, which is maybe better, so I don't have to discard to hand size as much. And then I guess I can run out another braided net in the meantime. Could also activate the Bay now to get a Star Cage to at least get, let's see, 6, 7, 14 damage out of it. That might be safer in case our opponent is waiting on Ultima. Just get a Star Cage now, get some damage. And then Ultima is not going to be as backbreaking, because it's ending the turn, that's the problem. Because then the munitions don't get to deal any damage. Alright, so we're trying to navigate this game. Now, of course, our Kipu is not going to draw as many cards, but I think we'll still have plenty. Can flash in the Saw Blades end of turn just to make an extra munitions. Opponent's making treasure instead of fish. I could actually tap down the treasure with the braided net. Maybe should have done so in upkeep. Now it's too late. And yeah, there's Ultima. So glad we at least made the most out of it. So what does this mean? Opponent gets Seam Rip back for manufacturing. I lose everything. So yeah, it's not ideal. Anything I want to do in response? Not really. I guess never mind. With the turn ending, Seam Rip doesn't get a chance to exile the manufacturing, so that's pretty helpful actually. So our opponent's at 5. Battlefront most likely gets countered, but maybe we can still win regardless. Alright, opponent's gonna hard counter. So at least that's one more down. So if I Saw Blades into Star Cage, I can deal 4 damage, which is not quite lethal. But it might be good enough for now, because then if I top deck the 2 damage artifact, we can just win the game on the spot. So once again, manufacturing first. And then now if we can find our extruder, we can win the game, assuming they don't gain life in some way. Well, that's gonna gain them 4. Alright, so we gotta rebuild. Start with Relic, at least they haven't answered the manufacturing yet, which is good. Alright, now they're gonna get lost, so they found some good answers in the meantime. These are also 2 artifacts we can maybe put to use. And there's the extruder. So let's do a quick recap. I have 2 manufacturings left in the deck. Opponent still has 3 get losts and 2 3 steps ahead. Maybe 1 more Ultima. Currently 3 cards in hand. I'm guessing it's mostly creature removal that's not super relevant. So how do we want to proceed? I need to try to draw into another manufacturing, probably. I don't think extruder can go the distance. So I could repurposing bay the relic and get another braided net. Which we can immediately craft. Plenty of stuff in the graveyard. Alright, so next turn we can activate our Kipu to draw a bunch more. Opponent's gonna stock up, so that can find them more answers. Alright, Battlefront, I'm assuming is going to get countered again, but I'll try. Alright, we found the manufacturings, 2 of them in fact. Can that win me the game this turn? I guess it depends how the rest of the turn goes. Because I can cast the extruder and then sack it to repurposing bay to get another copy of Starcage. Opponent with a double no more lies, fair enough. But yeah, if they can't answer the manufacturings, we'll still get there. They had another get lost as it turns out. It does give us more artifacts for the Kipu. And another stock up, that's bad news, because now they could maybe find another Ultima or another answer to the manufacturing. And then we don't have any win conditions left outside of the extruder. Elspeth, okay, that's fine. I would rather have them tap out for their own threats as opposed to removing mine. Also can't forget about activating the Starcage to make some 2/2 robots, but yeah, I think we've got other plans. So, opponent's at 5. Should be able to figure out a win here. I do not have a 2-mana artifact to sack to repurposing bay at the moment. So I need to draw into one with a Kipu. So I'll start there. May need my mana elsewhere. So I'm not going to play the Perilous Snare first. Alright, so found the extruder. So we can cast extruder. And then get Starcage. And that would be game. If I have a Starcage remaining. I should have one left. And that resolves. Activates. Opponent's gonna get lost to manufacturing now. Yeah, that's good timing, because that means I can no longer present lethal, since we only have the 1 munitions. Now I can pivot and go for Perilous Snare on Elspeth, and then our opponent does not have lethal with Anchorage, because I'm a mana short of casting Perilous Snare from hand. Yeah, somehow ended up with a ton of 3-drops and no additional 2-drops. So they can put me to 1, and that to another Elspeth. So we do not have any manufacturings left in the deck, but we do have a couple more extruders, which can then sack the munitions to deal 4. So that's the plan. Start with Battlefront. See if that resolves. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the plan is yet. Consult unkicked, so they can still cast a counterspell, which they're pretty likely to find in 10 cards. Alright, that resolves. Did not find Extruder, but we can go for, let's see, Braided Net. Cannot tap their creature land, so I have to go for Relic and draw into the Extruder that way. Braided Net, if I transform and activate, I'm going to be a mana short of casting Extruder, and I guess 3 mana short of casting and activating. So I have to get there with a Relic. Yeah, the Star Cage doesn't really do anything for me anymore. I guess I can still draw into a Saw Blades to deal with the Anchorage. So then if I can deal with their other stuff, that's still good. So I guess Braided Net answers Beza. Star Cage can answer the tokens. But we want Extruder here. That's not an Extruder. So now what? Yeah, I guess we cast a Star Cage, which will draw with a Relic, answer the tokens, and then I still need to draw into something useful. Could have also sacked the Relic, I suppose, to keep Beza locked down, but then we still need to deal with the 1/1s. So the munitions leave, dealing 2. So just casting the Extruder would be enough. Found the Saw Blades, so I'm technically alive. Braided Net Beza, Saw Blades, the Anchorage. And then there's nothing else I can really do this turn. No 4-drop to get with Repurposing Bay. Alright, I guess we pass. Opponent's gonna consult with Kicker now. Yeah, that's probably the death knell, as they'll most likely find another counter. So yeah, we got a bit unlucky not to find the Extruder. Opponent had exactly the right answers at the right time. And now they're most definitely gonna have a counterspell for the Saw Blades to just end the game with Anchorage. Still a very close one. Both players at 1 life, so can't get any closer really. 10 cards remain. I guess there's 2 Extruders in exile, so there's actually only 1 left in the deck. So it's got to be one of the next couple draw steps, since we've seen the bottom cards with the Battlefront. So gotta remember to Braided Net Beza, but at this point I imagine our opponent will have found a counter to the Saw Blades. But yeah, still impressive that we managed to get this far, surviving an Ultima and some other powerful answers. Opponent now contemplating whether they want to attack. Because, yeah, maybe they only have 1 counter spell and we could have had double Saw Blades here, which could have backfired. But I imagine they just hard counter the first one. Maybe gotta make them think we have a second one so they don't counter the removal spell, thinking they need to keep the counter spell for another extruder. Or they can just win the game right now. And yeah, opponent comes to that same conclusion. And that's game. GG's. Super close game, well played by our opponent as well. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand, missing our manufacturing, but repurposing bay gives us a way to maybe access braided net, which in turn can draw us a bunch of cards. Say no to the passage. I would have kept it if I had a Battlefront in hand, but don't need to prioritize it. Yeah, tactics can grab artifacts, it's actually pretty good here. We'll see what they prioritize. Goes for repurposing bay. Well, manufacturing was a good top deck. They would not have been able to take it, but glad to have it in play. Mono black is going to have a hard time removing it. The Terminus. We can exile with the Star Cage at some point. Could go for it now, just to slow them down a bit. Might be a little early. Could play Extruder with a plan of making a Golem next turn. Yeah, I mean, I could still just Star Cage here. Slow them down. And then I don't think I want to exile the munitions right now, since I might be able to use it with the Extruder. And next we want a Perilous Snare. Saw Blades. Not very useful at the moment, but could come in handy later. And Demon Wall is not gonna attack into the Saw Blades anytime soon. But now we can extrude. Could have also finished off the Demon Wall, I suppose, dealing 4 total. But I'll start making some 3/3s. This we can, I guess, activate at instant speed, so I can wait. Alright, so our opponent's not doing anything. 6 mana to activate a Demon Wall. I imagine they'll have answers to the 3/3 token. For now we attack. Opponent's gonna shoot the Sheriff. Can sack the 3/3 to make another 3/3. Since the game might go for a while. Now our opponent can activate Demon Wall, makes it a 5/5. So I can still finish it off with the Extruder. So maybe regretting not taking out a wall when I had the chance. If I get to connect, I can also get my speed up for Perilous Snare, so that could be useful later. And then could take 2 to double Saw Blades, but I think we don't need that. Since 1 Saw Blades and 2 damage would still be enough to take out a 7/7 wall. But yeah, if the Demon Wall just chills on defense, grows up to a 7/7, then I won't have an easy time attacking into it with my 3/3s anymore. There's going to be an Acolyte next. So they are incentivized to attack. For now, we just go face. And another Extruder. Okay, so What's the plan now? Can finish off the acolytes, attack, and then if they block with Demon Wall, I can finish that off as well. Close to burning my opponent to death, but let's deal with a lifelinker. Attack. Opponent's kind of forced to block here. And yeah, we can sack another munitions, finish off the wall. Still have plenty of 3/3s left over, and there we have it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a promising hand. Got our manufacturing in our opener, which is where we want it. Keep a lane 4. Up against blue-white, hopefully it's not a pure control deck, since we've had our fair share of those. Authority's fine. Yeah, I'm just gonna play another manufacturing while we can. And next turn we can start deploying our artifacts. Alright, it is kind of the mirror match, another synthesizer deck. So I'm curious to see how our manufacturing build lines up. For now, play one relic. See what we draw. Another manufacturing. So really just looking for Star Cage now, which can not only clear the opponent's artifact tokens, but also enable the munitions. Battlefront misses. That's incredibly unlucky. And a 4th manufacturing, I mean, may as well go all out. Found a Perilous Snare. Our opponent's also probably running Star Cage, and they actually cast it. Well, they're gonna find out that it's not to their advantage. Now they did stack the triggers so that they'll get the Synthesizer token afterwards, but we also get to draw 2 of the Cryogen relics. Opponent's at 8. And double extruder can maybe cross the finish line for us. Safest would probably be to get rid of the Synthesizer. Could also exile the Star Cage to get double relic back. But yeah, let's get rid of the Synthesizer so I can get combo killed by Fire Crystal out of nowhere. And then could keep up Saw Blades to answer their token, or I can play an Extruder. So next turn I can start sacking some of these munitions. Because yeah, I can put them to 6, and then next turn play another Extruder, put them to 4, and then I'll have 4 mana left to sack 2 munitions for 4 more damage. So that could be game. Opponent goes for Repurposing Bay, sack Saw Blades, probably getting another Synthesizer. That's fine. So they seem undead on board to me. They got a bit unlucky with the first Battlefront, and we got fortunate to draw all the manufacturings. But yeah, as long as we find Star Cage at some point, we can control the board and have the manufacturings take over. So it's not going to be the satisfying Star Cage for the win. But that's why Extruder can also function as a backup plan. And gotta make sure to respond to the Authority trigger. So we burn them out before they gain the life. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Got the manufacturing. some interaction, and definitely keep a Battlefront when given the chance. Facing a Siren, so could be mono blue, could be blue black. Still gonna get the manufacturing down while we can. And then maybe next turn we'll extrude the Siren, we'll see. Good that we resolved our win condition. And yeah, this does look like mono blue. So, extruder not as mana efficient as repurposing bay, but gotta mitigate some of the early damage. And then extruder sacking the munitions could also be a play at some point, just to deal 2 damage. Aetherize we don't really care about. They might keep it thinking we're a Synthesizer deck, but it's not gonna really help them. So yeah, opponent kept it on top. So yeah, small advantages of playing an unknown strategy. Your opponent's more likely to make mistakes or at least suboptimal plays. So now I'm lacking Relic. Could still extrude the Siren, we'll see if they have a response. Can cast the extruder or we can activate the one in play. Given that they're maybe holding a counterspell, I think I just sacrifice a munitions. So we're not under any pressure. We'll have more time to set up. And on the board we can assemble a small army of artifacts. Right, opponent's going to counter the trigger that dealt 2 damage with the intrusion. Fair enough. And now main phase Curiosity, draw a card. But now we get to resolve our Battlefront, I think. Could also play it safe and just resolve, let's say, a Braided Net or Extruder, which can also maybe finish off the Curiosity if we deal 2 more with the munitions. But yeah, I think we go big, hope to exile the Curiosity with a Perilous Snare, and the manufacturing is not bad either. Okay, so they'll still have the Siren. Probably fine to hit for 3, as opposed to leaving it back for Sanctuary. Increase our speed. Do they have another Curiosity back to back? No, opponent animates Sanctuary, that's fine. We take 5, but we now don't have to worry about any counter spells once again. And we're starting to generate a lot of munitions. If I play Repurposing Bay, I'm a mana short of sacrificing a 2-drop to get the Star Cage, which is eventually the goal. So I think for now we could still cast a Repurposing Bay, or I can just Extruder and deal with the Siren. And then sack the Relic to draw a card. Make another 3/3. And then I don't think I even attack, because they could easily have a bounce spell for the token. And as I've said, on the board we have enough to win the game, so I don't even have to combo with Star Cage. So just want to preserve our life total, make sure we don't get run over. Another Extruder's not bad. So how do we feel about Repurposing Bay? Likely gets countered, but then I can still Extruder or activate. And yeah, opponent realizes that they're just too far behind on the board, with 2 Extruders being able to make a pair of 3/3s each turn, dealing 4 damage. Alright, so we got to see this Jeskai Artifact deck in action, showing that we can win without Simulacrum Synthesizer, which is usually the card people complain about, and we even happen to win 2 mirror matches with munitions doing a ton of work for us. So yeah, there's definitely something here. Maybe in the future, if there's more hate cards to specifically target Synthesizer, you can move into a build that doesn't even play it. So yeah, always good to keep your options open. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.